I guess we'll call this meeting to order. It's 3 p.m. And I am wondering if we have any public comments. Anyone here that?
That's not first on the agenda.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. All right. First and foremost, can I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
A motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you. All in favor to approve the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Also, for those that participated in June and August, I am looking for an approval on the minutes from those 2 meetings. Do I have a motion to approve those?
I motion to approve the meeting minutes from June and August.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. And then this is a public forum. Do we have anyone remotely or here that would like to add a public comment? Don't believe so. And then before we get started on the subcommittee reviews, we'd like to welcome David to the team. Thank you for
Awesome.
joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Good to see you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
I'm
good to see
Coral.
Coral, awesome.
Okay.
Hey, good to see ya.
You too, man.
Welcome.
Yeah,
We look forward to your
Awesome.
contributions. Okay, subcommittee reviews. Anne, would you like to start us off with volunteer group management and all of the progress you're making there?
Sure. So someone applied to our position, the town of Woodfin's position for an AmeriCorps
Excellent.
member. And the AmeriCorps leadership team let us know, and then we held an interview with Adrian and Shannon, and I sat in on that. And at the end, we felt like that would be a good idea to move forward on the next steps. And so I don't know what's next on the agenda for her, but I do know that she couldn't start till January. So we're looking at a January to
Okay.
July term, and then if everybody feels like it's a good idea to move forward, then she intends to sign on for another year after that. So we're looking at an 18-month,
Wow.
18-month term, potentially.
That's very exciting.
Yep.
I don't have any specific updates. I followed up with AmeriCorps and her, so she's
Okay.
aware, they're aware.
Great.
And I'll touch base with him closer to January about what needs to happen next.
So she's currently living in Cincinnati, has some experience working with government there
Oh, wow.
and with public community gardens. And she's very enthusiastic and eager to jump into whatever we've got going on.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's really good news.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
And then I talked with some folks at French Broad River Academy for Girls about their elective class and potentially adding an elective of community service. And with the idea that they would be building duck boxes or bluebird boxes or fish bait trash holders or renovating the little free libraries, and they're excited about that possibility. So they're thinking trimester 2, which is like November to February, something like that.
Yes.
And so, hi Gerald.
Hi, Gerald.
So we've got a few months to plan and connect with the teacher that would lead that, but I'm happy, should it be on a Friday, I can join that class and
That's
support
really great.
and Gerald, so that he's also got lots of bird box making experience. So
Yes.
that would be fun to have us both in on
That's
that project.
fantastic.
So
It's
It'd
great.
be fun to work with them.
yeah,
What age is
middle school, 6th through
Okay.
8th grade.
Okay.
Yep, and it's a choice, so it would be girls who want to be there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Good news.
Work young minds. That's
Excellent. That's a productive update.
Yeah.
Lots going on. Thank you. And then the wave management. Do you want to provide? Actually, Chris, you sit on wave,
And Dave does too.
and Dave, you do. Okay. Sorry. So Adrian, I think we'll put it off to these two if they want to provide an update on where things are at.
Well, basically, we've just been taking information from other places that have similar similar structures, and sort of like what rules and regulations should we have, what events might be some of the things that we would roll out in the beginning, and what a timeline would look like to build to like hosting something like a world championship or some sort of championship that would show that we have the capacity to do something like that big. And there's a contingent of people who are going to be going to Columbus, Georgia. Is that October?
That is October 11th. I think it's like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week of the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, I think.
Yeah, and so just talking about like what kind of signs
Right.
may be there, what sort of policies around amplification or usage, if the, you know, what's the difference between an outfitter versus a nonprofit like French Broad River Academy versus like a group of like 20 to 50 people who get together to do something. And I think most of that's kind of preliminary at this point. I mean, we'll be making some recommendations that then ultimately the town commission will be voting on.
Great. Great, and I think Wayne passed along like the drafts of what the risk management and event activation.
There's the point of the task force is to create two policies, one for event management, one for user management. So
Yeah.
that's what he passed along.
Yep.
And staff is putting those together and with the feedback from the task force, and that'll be coming your way. The final draft will be coming your way probably in November.
Right.
I think that'll be the last time, the last month the task force will actually meet on that. And then it'll be turned over to you for review. And then whatever needs to go to council will go to council.
Okay.
So be expecting to see something around that towards the end of the year.
Okay. Great.
Say the main task force of the last meeting was on events. Talking about events being there.
Yeah, it's sort of been like every other month. It's like events and policy, events,
Right.
policy type thing. But it really feels like we're getting to a point for the recommendations, and I guess you might have an update for us later. I didn't look at the agenda in terms of that project and where it is in terms of the bidding process and or posting the bid, which is going to be exciting.
Really exciting. You've made a lot of progress in a really short amount of time. It was a really good group.
Yeah, in addition to, like the three people from this committee who sit on there, there's an additional few people from the community who've been very active in helping get that as well.
Excellent. That feels good. Feels like we're trying to get a lot of things done. It's great. Anything else from our subcommittees? Great. Project management updates?
So I have updates on Silverline Park and the Riverside Park and Wave. So first, Silverline Park, we received 2 responses from the request for qualifications for the master plan design for the restrooms and potential pickleball courts or other recreational amenity. And
Why do you think there were only 2 responses, or is everybody just that busy?
I think so, because I had questions from other firms up to the deadline, and I only got the 2 responses, so.
If I had more energy, I'd start my firm again. I
So
have
we-
to take Carol's office space because that was mine before it was hers.
We interviewed, a committee of us, a 3-person committee interviewed both of the firms and ultimately decided to select Equinox for that project. They also designed the park that was recently built, so it flows pretty well. We're pretty excited about working with them. And they are still working on the contract, so we're in the contract negotiations part of it now, but I should have something from them in the next couple
Do
weeks.
you have a price range you're looking for?
Not yet. Well, we have a budget.
Budget? Okay.
So that's Silverland Park. So hopefully we'll get that going soon. I'm excited to see the restrooms finally
I know, me
there.
too.
So. All right, so Riverside Park and the Wave, just generally for demolition, all the buildings are gone. The metal building's finally gone. That seemed like it took forever, but it's gone.
Looks good.
And they started demolishing that wooden building this week too. This morning it was still halfway there. I don't know if they finished or not, but it should be gone pretty soon. We did get some more good news this week. We got our 401 permit approved. So that's another check off the permitting list. So we now have in hand our stormwater permit, erosion control permit, the 401 permit, and the Norfolk Southern permit.
Wow.
We have 3 outstanding permits that kind of go hand in hand under the Army Corps of Engineers. So we're waiting on that 404 permit from them that requires concurrence or approval from the Fish and Wildlife Service. So that's a big deal that we're waiting on. We are also waiting on the CLOMAR to be approved. Right now, all we have left for that is to send out property owner notification letters. There's a 30-day waiting period for that to be digested within the community. And they should issue that. Once they issue that, we can go for our floodplain permit. And we need all of that to go back to get the Fish and Wildlife 404 permit approved. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
But it's moving along. For the Fish and Wildlife permit, we have to do a biological assessment, which is underway right now, that has to be sent in for their review. And then they'll turn around and issue a biological opinion of that assessment that would go towards whatever the permit is, based on the endangered species in that area.
Who does the biological assessment? Is it a third party?
Yep. I don't honestly know who it is off the top of my head, but Equinox is coordinating all that.
Oh, okay.
Is that for like in the water, or is that for like on that land that's all gonna be
Both
moved?
in that
Both?
general area. So I think there's about 5 endangered species, don't quote me on that, but somewhere around there.
Yeah, yeah.
Most of them being bats, which
Right.
we can work around, but the one concern is an Appalachian elk toe, which is a mussel that's endangered. And so that's what the biological assessment's really focusing on, I believe.
Interesting.
And is it the complete like shoreline and water part of where the park is, or does it extend beyond that in terms of like what's upstream and?
I don't think it extends far beyond that.
Okay.
It's where their habitat is gonna be messed with in some way, disturbed. So it would be in that area of the river for the mussel, and then in the trees around that for the bats. Any other questions on permitting?
Timeline, oh,
Yeah.
What is 401?
It is through the Department of Water Resources, so it's part of the EPA requirements. That's the section 401 of their code,
And it's water quality.
water quality.
Same question as Coral. Do you have any idea when the plumber and the flood stuff, or is it just in their hands?
No, I think it would move the Clemmer would move pretty quick, but we're waiting on them to approve the property owner notification letters we have to send out to all the adjacent property owners. And there's a 30-day waiting period once those are sent, but after that, I think it'll move pretty quickly.
Okay.
But we can't apply for the flood until we get that,
Yeah.
so.
so November, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
And is that on target?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I've got the timeline, I'll go over that.
Okay, great. Okay, I see that.
Sorry.
Okay.
Jump in.
Hi, Shannon.
Hey.
So I've had the timeline for bids and the timeline for construction that's where we are right now. So we're thinking that we're gonna send the invitation for bids out October 10th. We're already drafting that, and we'll be ready to go on that date. Then we'll have about a 7-week time period to leave that open, so the deadline and the bid opening would be November 28th. With a 60-day window for contract negotiations, so hopefully be awarding a contract in January.
I see, and then hopefully like those permits will have come through by the time this
Exactly.
construction date is decided, so it's all like lining up.
Exactly.
I got it.
How long typically, once a contract is awarded, before they start doing something?
Not long, maybe 30 days. Depends on the negotiations, but
Weather.
weather. And speaking of weather, we had talked about the timeline for the wave construction being starting first and then getting that done and then the park being constructed. But after talking to the consultants for the wave design, they've recommended against that because that's not the prime time for river levels to be at their lowest. That's in the summer. So they are recommending that construction begin in June or July, with the best time for the flow rates for construction. So,
Okay.
the thinking now is that the clearing and grading for the park construction and the river access would begin in January or February after contract negotiations are complete. With the park construction beginning in March, just kind of setting the site and then allowing for construction of the wave to begin in June with that 16-week time frame for completion. So that would put it being completed in the fall. And then the park would pick back up and be completed by fall of '25.
I'll just say, when we got our ramp built at French Broad River Academy, in my opinion, the powers that be jumped the gun and went not during the lowest possible season. And that's why it's like up above the water now, and it's
Okay.
basically like we're gonna have to get it redone, so.
Interesting.
Right, because
Yeah.
basically the Army Corps for a ramp like that, I'm not sure what y'all did at Silverline or what your approval process was, but for the schools, I know that it wasn't done at the historical low time of year of the rivers, and that has affected us. I wish it was lower.
Good to know.
Yeah, so I understand what they're saying there.
Any questions on the timeline?
No, but I may have jumped the gun. I was hiking with Karen Chavez this weekend. I'm like, oh, we're going to be surfing by next summer. She's like, I got to get a story going. So tell her,
Might wanna-
pump the brakes a little bit.
Sure. Wetsuit on it, so.
Yeah.
That's all the updates I have.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any other questions regarding the project?
I have one more update. Shannon needs to ask a question.
Oh, yes.
Actually, this is just sort of a fun thing. We've been talking some amongst the staff about how we want to recognize our board volunteers, and we're a little bit behind the curve because we've had a couple. PGAC is a relatively new board, and so it's a little bit of a fledgling board still. So we haven't had a lot of people cycle off. But one person who has is Walt Brewer, and Walt has actually been a very significant volunteer with the town for a number of years. He's been involved in a number of different initiatives over the years. So we are planning a little surprise recognition for Walt on a council meeting next Tuesday. So I just wanted to get your ideas on how do we do this? I thought about trying to get little short videos of everybody, all the current members and other people who know Walt saying thanks Walt, or something like that. Or I could just do a photo of everybody together, waving and thumbs up, or I don't know, just something. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts, but.
The video thing.
Do a little video.
Yeah, that's
So
nice.
maybe when you all are done, maybe we can go outside and do some short,
Perfect.
quick little videos. Okay.
Yeah, it'd be great to get over to the park.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do that. All right.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
And I don't
Moving.
know whether a plaque is good or not, to follow up on that. I say that because I unpacked a box last week that had plaques from 20 years ago, so I'm not sure how, or actually 30 years ago. Yeah, but I don't know how other people deal with those. We're putting them in a box for 30 years. I think the video would be more relevant. But maybe you give him a plaque and he's got an empty box.
We're trying to move away from plaques
Yeah.
and trying to do something that can be, it doesn't have to be pricey, but just something that's
Maybe.
meaningful. So-
Well, I think the video would be.
And just breaking my own rule. Waltz is also one of our most consistent council meeting attendees. So being able to recognize him publicly in the meeting, I thought would be a nice way to go for him. I mean, not all board members' contributions are quite the same, but like I said, Walt's been here for so long and he's done so much for the town. We want to do
You
something.
did a lot to get this committee off on a good start.
Yeah, and before this committee, he worked on a native plant, a recommended plant list. He
Dark
worked with the
sky.
town. Yep, and he worked with the town on sign code standards. What was the other thing? Outdoor lighting was another thing he worked on, so all very valuable things for the town, so.
Is the town in a position, I don't know if you can do this or not, but to offer him like a gift certificate as a thank you, like maybe a nice gift certificate to a restaurant in Woodfin, or I don't know what your policies are on that, but it
Yeah.
feels like that would be he has contributed so many pro bono hours.
Yeah. Gift certificates are a touchy thing for local governments, given.
Okay.
But we do have a gift for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So, but it's really what do we do during the meeting to kind of,
Sure.
yeah, showcase it, so.
Yeah, that's always hard I know in my business too, like, okay, where on the general ledger does that go?
Exactly. It is a tricky.
Didn't Wanda Green sort of
On the,
gift certificates of bad?
Got it, oh, yeah, okay, sorry for bringing that up.
Started before that, actually.
Yeah, it has, and it's been issues in other places. It's not to say you can't or that there isn't a way to do it, but as
Best
a
to
general
just stay
rule,
away from it.
we just kind of stay away from it, yeah.
That makes sense, I'm sorry, brother.
Well, and, would you, since there's only 4 of us here, I think I'd like to do it today, but then, do you want us to also email out people who've also sat on this committee, and they can send in their own little thing that's thank you to be edited in or something?
I can take care of that.
Awesome, I was gonna ask if you wanted to take care of that.
So that would be Lucy,
Brian.
Brian. Those two feel like the strongest two. The woman from
Oh, the Y.
the Y, she was with us for a couple of meetings.
She's moved out of town.
Right,
Um,
okay. I think those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'll be in touch with them.
And if they can just email it to me.
Okay.
I'll try to splice it together.
Maybe 15 seconds.
Yeah, just, it could be 5 to 15 seconds.
Okay.
Whatever they want to do.
And how about Eric Hardy? Will you ask him or, okay, great.
What's the deadline? Oh, well, the meeting's Tuesday, so you want it.
ASAP?
Like
Yeah.
tonight, tomorrow, okay.
ASAP, okay.
Which is why I'm crashing your meeting.
Yeah. That's good. Perfect. Excellent. Anything else with regards to Walt? Okay, moving on to new business. We're gonna have a discussion around community gardens.
So I know you had asked for this to be on the agenda, but I just wanted to kind of introduce it as something that we're looking at. Well, I'll just jump into it. So there's a group of organizers that have come together and asked the town where they can put a community garden, and have been looking around at potential sites. And it kind of stopped with us for a while because they were talking to Woodfin Elementary about using some of their area. And that kind of abruptly ended a couple of weeks ago when Woodfin Elementary said they can't house that. So they're back to square one of where can they put this community garden. And I've talked to Shannon about it a little bit. We have this site, obviously, with Roy Pope and the town hall, and we have the community center site, but both of those sites are being looked at for potential town hall, town center sites. And so we probably don't want to put a community garden there because we don't know what's going to happen next, if we're going to do it now. So one of the things we thought about was Geneva Maney Park. And I know we've talked a lot about what can happen with Geneva Maney Park next. The town at one point was looking at using it for housing, but after looking into it a little bit, that's not a potential use because of, there's a stream that runs through the middle of the property. So it would have to be some kind of recreational use most likely, or a one house development, which the town's probably not going to be interested in. And so I'm bringing that to you as a recommendation that Geneva Maney be used as a community garden, and we just revamp the whole property as a community garden. If that's the way you think we should go, we can make that recommendation to town council and move forward on doing that. I did save, the kids did a survey of the neighborhood, and I did note that one of their options for reuse of that property was a community garden. Not the top one, but, close. And so we do have that feedback from the neighborhood. We would need to talk about getting water to the site and maybe doing some cost sharing with the organizers on revamping that property. I don't know that they're super excited. I think they wanted to be on this side of town because I think they must live close to this area and it's easily accessible for them. So they made a comment about that property not being accessible. So I just wanted to open up the discussion with you guys to see what you thought about it, and we can go from there.
I think you should buy the Clark Brothers property on the east side of what is that, Woodfin Avenue, and by the time clean out all the soil from the oil that's stripped out for years. That's.
I don't think that's an option.
Oh, okay, I didn't think so.
Where is the park? Where is this one you're talking about that I probably just don't know exactly?
Exactly. It's kind of across from Silverland Park.
Do you know where Thursday
Silverline
bicycles?
Okay, Silverland Plastics, and you're going up one of those roads
Lookout
straight
Road.
up.
Yeah.
Lookout, okay,
It's right off Lookout to the right.
okay.
Is that a perennial stream or just,
Mhm.
is that any possibility that could provide enough water?
I don't think so.
So it's
It's pretty
it's like a
small.
culvert under the park?
It's a stream. It's not a culvert. It's a mapped area where water could flow.
But it goes under, I'm guessing it goes underneath.
There's not a stream at that park?
It's probably underneath. You can't see it.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's not piped. It's there.
But it feeds into the French Broad, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Like, and so would we be losing, I guess there would be parking in the garden, but we would be losing the playground, and we wouldn't be putting like a basketball hoop or anything in?
Well, it's, up for debate, but
Yeah,
I would think the whole site would be used for a community garden.
yeah. And there'd be a budget to rip everything out?
There could be, but I think there would need to be some conversations with the organizing group about cost sharing with the town.
Oh, really? Okay.
And one thing would be the permanence of are they committed for 5 to 10 years to the
Right.
community garden? Because taking the park out of the use and converting to a community garden, we want to make sure there's some longevity.
Right, it's gonna be maintained.
Well, I wonder if if it could be a combination, so it is a garden, but there are natural play features there that children could play on, maybe while their parents work in the garden, or give parents something to do while their children are playing in the garden, or could it be a playground, but not look like it does right now, not be like your typical little Tykes playground.
I don't know that the town's interested in putting a lot of money into the effort. And so we could remove the playground equipment that's there and maybe do a little bit. If we're gonna make it a community garden, that needs to be the focus, the initial focus of redoing the site, and then we could talk about other amenities later. So I think the question is, do you think that's a good site for a community garden?
If we can get a water spigot, I mean, there's water right there, because all those houses have water on Company Street.
Right.
But, so we would just need to get a spigot, because there's,
Hmm.
I don't know.
Well, I would think the whole site would be used for a community garden. And so we could talk about other amenities later. So I think the question is, do you think that's a good site for a community garden?
if we can get a water spigot. no water,
And I've forgotten, how much shade does that park?
zero.
It's got none right now. So, I mean, I think the next step would be more for them to come bring us like a new presentation, because what they talked about before, they didn't really have a plan. And so that concerns me, because what happened with George Washington Carver Edible Park at Stevens Lee was, these people, there was like a couple and they were really excited. Well, they set it up and then they moved to like another city, and it kind of fell into disrepair until eventually Bountiful Cities and the Fruit and Nut Club people and stuff kind of came in. And so just in terms of, and I know that we would draw up some parameters, but yeah, I'm just, if they don't have like an agent like Bountiful Cities or something like that, like what happens if it falls into like just an overgrown lot? And I agree that the equipment that's there has outlived its usefulness. I mean, it's and I think it'd be an adequate site. My concern is they didn't really have a plan before, and I'm sure that they brought more stuff to you, but I think if they can be prepared to present to this committee, maybe at the next one, then we could make a better recommendation, unless council really is wanting.
They're not, and I think staff's kind of ready for something to happen with that property. And we see this as an opportunity to redevelop what's there. Maybe, it might be something that we revisit as staff to say maybe it's something the town should be taking over and taking care of, because I honestly think, from my conversation a month ago, they're still not quite ready for, they're not really organized yet.
Well, it may be
So-
that the site, you can't plant a garden if you don't know where it is gonna be. So it may be if the town says, if you wanna partner with the town in this way, this is the property we're prepared to offer you right now. And if you don't want to do that, then maybe consider Newbridge Baptist Church, or like other places around here that have big flat areas with water spigots somewhere, but that this is kind of what we've got right now, and probably for the long run, this is as good as it gets. So if you're gonna connect with the town on the idea.
And if we're going to be kind of removing, because the only thing that I think could ever come up with that we could afford to do right now is to put in a basketball hoop, right? So if we're going to be removing stuff, adding trees, vines, I would recommend ones that are kind of like a forest. If people don't do anything with them, they can still sort of be a place that you could have benches and be like kind of a nature preserve, natural park or something like that.
Okay, this is good feedback. I think what I will do is go back to the group that's brought it up, and just tell them about this conversation and offer them up that site that we would then come back to you with and go to council with. But I just wanted to get your feedback on whether or not we should even offer that site as a community garden.
I hate driving by there every day. It's so pitiful. I just am like, this is so awful.
The dragons turn white.
Yeah, people are still playing pickleball. People are still climbing on that play stuff, but it's just really pitiful.
Yeah, it's
So I would love to see something fresh happen there. Even if it's just, people still play, but even if it's just pulling it out and kind of saying, something great's going to happen
Right.
soon. It would feel better. So yeah, I think if that can be presented, we're willing to put water, the town's willing to put water there, the town's willing to figure out how to get rid of this stuff, and if you guys can do the plan and kind of take it from there,
Okay.
then
Depending on where the stream is too, if we're able to expose the natural stream to be used as like a nice way to like escape the hustle and bustle, steps away from or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And we definitely want to look into that. We just don't want to look into it if we're not going to be doing it, in the
Right.
garden. So,
And I agree, like, they need to have some skin in the game. I think they need to really get organized and put like a sound proposal in front of us before we invest the time and energy and some resources into ripping out all the play equipment.
yeah, right.
Also, with just the information that they got to you, that they weren't as stoked on that, or weren't as excited about that site, when you come back with that information, then what is their willingness to engage going to be, I think, is important to see.
Engage and maintain.
Engage and
Maintain.
maintain, especially if it's
Exactly.
not in the spot where they were hoping for. I think that's important information to kind of.
Yeah.
And in terms of accessibility, you know, we are going to have a greenway that goes really close to that park, you know, pretty soon.
Right.
But it's,
Right.
it's not, I mean, you know
It's-
as well as I do.
it's-
It's on the other side of a plastic factory. So, it's not, it's close, but so far.
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know,
Across the
maybe
railroad tracks,
DOT will
Riverside
like
Drive.
make nice on that road, you know, somehow, I don't know.
Be
it'll be
huge,
okay.
one of the huge silver line pipes.
Yeah.
And, yes, that's right, we need a culvert.
I don't think we should ever talk about those two parks being remotely close, because for me, living adjacent to Riverside Drive, like the other day I watched a family with the dad had the baby on his chest and another little toddler, and they're crossing Riverside going down this clearing that our neighborhood has opened up that puts you down on the railroad tracks to go into Riverside Park. Like, it is so sketchy crossing Riverside Drive. It got me all worked up again. I'm like, I need to reach out to Department of Transportation, and like, there needs to be a blinking light there, a crosswalk, something. Like, it just is so terrifying to me. Coming out from West City View crossing to go over to Riverside Park is dangerous.
curious
And
what's
I
gonna-
worry about that with Silver Line going over to Geneva too.
We've had conversations with DOT, side note, about the bridge being rebuilt, and I'm wondering what's gonna happen with that. It's gonna be closer to you,
Uh-huh.
so I'm wondering how they're gonna they're gonna have to do something there then for sure, because that's gonna be way too dangerous.
So could the bridge come in at West City View? And there'd be a red
West
light
City
there?
Ville's still a little
Still
ways
farther
down,
down.
yeah.
I think they're gonna have to do a crosswalk or some kind of signal or something.
What's the likelihood, and I know we've talked about it before, of this, of the town taking over that section of Riverside, making it a local street as opposed to city?
Almost impossible. And Shannon had a meeting with DOT, and I don't want to speak for Shannon, but they're not able to do it. They're not, I don't want to say willing, but they're not in a place right now to do a whole lot of pedestrian improvements in that stretch. And so our hands are kind of tied on what that's going to look like. We are doing a pedestrian plan for town-wide, but, you know, maybe we can focus some on that section and come up with some ideas that we could approach them with. So,
I mean,
It's,
if
yeah.
all of our parks are on that side.
Right.
I mean, I guess half of them, but, because I see it too, and now there's a coffee shop that's opened up.
Yeah.
Undertow, yeah,
Um,
it's great.
And,
coffee.
and so, like, yeah, I see people like kind of checking out the park, and they're parked, they leave their
Uh-huh.
car parked there. And Riverside Drive is scary if you're, if
It
you're on a
is.
bike or
Yes.
anything,
In a
anything other than a
car.
car. Yeah, even in a car, it's pretty scary sometimes.
okay. Well, I appreciate your feedback on the community garden. That's helpful. We'll just make sure to keep that on the agenda for next month so we can talk about it again. Or maybe they'll
I
be
don't know how
back.
fast they can move, but I'd be open to looking at something in between meetings
Okay.
so that it's, you know, we're not like month by month, but if they want to say like, yeah, we're going to run with that and email everybody a plan in 2 weeks, then like,
I'll ask him. I doubt it, but I'll ask him.
yeah.
Because basically, we would say, we're gonna leave the parking lot, we're not gonna tear that up.
Right.
We're just gonna take out the equipment, and that triangle or whatever.
Right.
would
It's
turn
like an
in.
L shape, right?
It's.
The parking
Yeah.
lot it's sort of an L
Mhm.
with a curved back. So the parking lot would stay.
I think it would have to.
Huge space, but
And you could have it, and then you just have the nose in parking,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah. Could be redesigned some way
Yeah.
for access, but I think it would need to stay so people could get there.
Yeah, most community gardens have some sort of like storage or greenhouse type thing or something that you could utilize the parking lot with, and then utilize the outdoor space for planted stuff. And there's still some buffer green space and stuff around there too. So it probably is out of all the places, because this and the community center are options, and either our Silver Line or Riverside. So it's kind of like the best option.
I mean, they could probably use the older section of Riverside, like towards French Broad River Academy, but
I
they
feel
don't,
like it's used.
the geese would just take over the
Oh,
garden.
right.
Well, and
think-
if you're unloading and stuff like that too, it doesn't seem like that would is like because
Right,
parking's so
it's
far.
not, right.
I know that at the French Broad River Academy site, well, the boys, the north campus, you can't plant any edible plants inside that ground
Oh, because it's,
because it's a brownfield site. So like, I know that
Gotcha.
I'd say farther away from the river for the community garden will actually make vegetables that you want the people eating. That's the way I would
Good
say it.
point.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, it's helpful.
Any other business that anyone wants to bring up? Otherwise, this meeting is adjourned.
Shortest meeting ever.
Very efficient.
Thanks for having me, all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
welcome.
glad to
Thanks
hear.
for
Cheryl.
being a part of it.
Dave, nice to meet you, Gerald.